And we are back. Hello and welcome to another Molby on the Spot. I'm Trev Downey and I'm joined, of course, by the Liverpool legend that is Jan Molby. Good evening, Jan.
Good evening, Trevor. How are you, my old friend?
I'm very good, and there's a lot to talk about, dude. So we should just get cracking right into it. There's so much we want to review, just so everyone knows what we're going to try and get through. We'll review that Bournemouth game, talk about the new boys, how they got on, any issues you see, because there are a few, how we addressed them and so on. We got to talk about the transfer window. I know it's everybody's kind of pet subject at the moment, but we do have to address it a little bit because there's some stories that broke only last night. Well, changes to the stories. So we'll talk Isak, we'll talk Guehi and any others that you think. We'll also talk outgoings and maybe a word or two for this new kid, Leone, as well. And of course, we'll look ahead to this very, very controversial game that's looming ahead now on Monday evening against Newcastle. But let's start, if we can, if it's okay with you, with a look back at the Bournemouth match before we get to any of that more controversial stuff. And listen, it's a start of 3 points on the board, Jan. We could say a whole lot about it. We could pull it apart. It's not really what we do here, but I would like to get your take on what maybe as something you saw that's negative and needs to be addressed and something you saw that worked well.
So I think we had a feeling, Trevor, that we're going to be entertaining to watch. And I think we saw that. Yeah, okay, the fact that Bournemouth sold almost all the defenders might have helped a little bit in terms of us being able to score 4 goals. The negative, Trev, for me is the distance between our players. You know, I think the distances are too big. I'm looking at the distances from Virgil van Dijk to Kirkus. I'm looking at the distance between the players who once they came in at half-time, Bournemouth and their manager, I know that we came out, first 50 minutes of the second half was the best we played, wasn't it? We scored 2-0 and we were really on top. But I think their manager might have had a word at half-time and gone, listen, there's areas here. You know, this Liverpool team isn't as compact as we normally experience. And I'm worried about the distances between the players. I mean, the easy bit is always Kirkus. Kirkus didn't have a good game. But how many times, Trevor, when you think back, did you almost get that feeling? He's in no man's land, isn't it? He's in a no man's land. Is he closing down the fullback? Is he marking the wide guy? Is he chucking in to help Virgil van Dijk? But he wasn't the only one. And I thought it was for 20 minutes in the second half, when they got on top and scored their 2 goals, I thought that was from that game, it was a worry. Going forward, Trevor. And I think we did this last year, didn't we? We had some games last year, and then on this show, we were kind of going, I'm worried about the next game. I'm not sure there is any need to be worried about the next game because I think we'll put it right and I think we'll be okay, isn't it? But as a one-off, there were certain elements of that game that would slightly worry. And you also saw the reaction from, you know, almost everybody who was at the game who kind of said, yes, great. It was a terrific game to start the season, but wasn't it, Trevor? Bang. And we're back, you know. But there was plenty to worry about. But if you are worried about nature, then you'll obviously be worried about the next one, which is Newcastle and Arsenal, isn't it? I'm not worried about nature. You know, I think with the time that we have in between the games and the fact that Gravenberch is coming back, I think we'll be okay. But we have to be better. But we've done a lot, Trevor. You know, and the question is, we're going to do more in terms of transfers. Is it too much? You know, it still looks like we're trying to fit people in. Florian Wirtz did what he does. But, you know, we also got to get used to that type of you know, because we're used to playing a different way. I mean, we used to go to other people to look for our chances. Now we have a central guy, and his expectation will be, you know, when he speaks about, I met Arne Slot and he told me what he was going to do with me. Well, we can all second guess what that was. Have him centrally. Everything goes through you, boy, yeah? You know, so we also got to get used to that.
Adaptation is going to be huge. I think you're dead right. It's interesting you mentioned the spaces, and I wonder, let me throw a couple of things at you. A fitter Alexis, you know, with more match time in his legs, the return of Gravenberch, as you say, would those two things help mitigate that a little bit? I think the Kirkes thing, you're dead right. It was done to death. The kid was playing his debut. We see him there. He's at the PFA Awards with the left back position, award, standing beside all our other lads who won awards. That's enough said about that kid. He's a very, very good footballer. We don't need to question whether he's just suddenly become a bad footballer. That's nonsense. But I wonder, will these distances, as you mentioned, that kind of disjointed look, will it settle when we understand what the flow is like? The flow going through Flo Wirtz, the flow that used to go directly to Mo Salah, and we used to, Mo became our playmaker as such. He looked very isolated at times in that first half. I'd have that in common with you. I wouldn't be a worrier either. I'm choosing to believe, Jan, that more fitness for Alexis, the reintroduction of Grav, and here's where we're getting towards something that we'll talk about with the Newcastle game. Do you see a situation where Grav, Mac, Dom, and Florian Wirtz are in the team? Because that's kind of where I'm leaning. I think Cody might be the one who suffers there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's very possible. Cody, I mean, he got himself a goal and he does okay. He's quite a tactically bright footballer, Cody. But, and I'm not suggesting that we're already moving past him, but I think there will be a number of games where the manager will be thinking twice about how to best get the best from these boys. And you will certainly have Dom and Wirtz who can play in that kind of role. It wouldn't be the same role as Gakpo plays. But this is also something to do with our fullbacks, isn't it? What exactly is the role? Now, Kirkis couldn't have been any sure about what his role was at Bournemouth. Yeah, bang, overlap, underlap, whatever, that was his role. When he's come to Liverpool now and we play a bit more of a tactical game. I mean, even on the other side, it wasn't so evident with Frimpong. But you do see that Frimpong, because he's so quick, he arrives there very quick, doesn't he? Before Mo can blink, he's there. He's either right on top of him or he's run beyond him. Whereas Trent was a different type of player, because Trent was quite happy to find some space so he could be the playmaker. Frimpong is not that kind of player. He doesn't want to find space so he can play with the ball. He wants to find space so he can run. And sometimes he runs into most space, So also we need to work on that.
Yeah, fine-tuning basically is what we're saying. And we will get back to the selection end of things when we're looking forward towards Newcastle. But just maybe another couple of words on the Bournemouth thing. To focus on something positive, the goal and general performance, I thought, of Ekitike up top. Really, really impressive. Some people were questioning what Wirtz did. I think they were looking for, the killer pass, a glorious assist, a wonder goal. That's what they were expecting. And when they didn't get that, they were a little bit underwhelmed, some people. I thought he was very tidy in his play, and I thought there was lots to enthuse about. We talked about Kirkes. I thought Frimpong was very bright, as you've mentioned, especially in his movement. But the real outstanding one of the new boys was Ekitike, wasn't he? He kind of... he's overperforming our expectations. I would have said, well, certainly mine. Yeah, I didn't have. I was less hopeful of him hitting the ground running than he has.
I don't know whether it was on this show, Trevor, but I think it might have been on Liverpool TV, but we were talking about Ekitike, and I said he's the one who's impressed me the most. But also probably from the starting point of expectations, because I thought we're going to need to work with this guy. All the talent is there, but we kind of need to put it back to need to put it together. But that doesn't appear to be the case, does it? He's got a game already. He's got a game with and without the ball, and I think that's important for Arne. The fact that he's already got a game without the ball as well, where he takes defenders away, creates space, and also he fills up well, isn't it? So he was really, really impressive. He had a good 60-65 minutes in him, where he played really well.
Yeah, and when you look at the way that he plays football, Jan, do you see a situation where there is that versatility there that, I was talking about maybe having to change it so we have more bodies around the centre of the park against Newcastle, especially when you've got big cloggers like Joe Linton going kicking lads up in the air. Do you see a role where he could almost play very well as part of almost like a two with Mo, that the two of them could do a few bits together? He does seem to have that versatility. He's capable of coming from the left. He's capable of laying the ball off. I loved his target man stuff, Jan. That was great to see.
I mean, I think he's capable of playing in a number of systems. I think we can play 4-2, 4-2-4. We can play 4-4-2 if needs be. And I think there's a number of guys who can play up alongside him. I don't think it'll be a problem to him because he's so aware. That's the one thing, isn't you always look and you go, I love players who are aware. Funny enough, I was in Denmark and watching a sort of second tier game the other week, and it was a very good game, Trevor. technically very, very good. But it was that awareness, so you kind of go, why did you play at this level? Awareness. They're just not aware of what's around them, whether that's teammates, whether that's opposition. And that was the one thing I took away. I really enjoyed the game, but I was just thinking, yeah, okay, this is the level, because he just, but this kid's got really, really good awareness, and that does surprise me. I just didn't think he was that type of a player.
Yeah, well, long may it continue. A word for the manager. We on Raw afterwards, we were a little bit critical of Arne's substitutions, his game plan in general. Yeah. And we were of the opinion that, look, that guy's entitled to a bad day at the office just as much as anybody else is. He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. It's very unlikely it'll be that sort of disjointed again. Again, the Warriors might say, oof, but we were inclined to think, yeah, look, it's a one-off. But you have to be honest and say it wasn't great from him on the day either.
No, it was a minor nightmare, wasn't it, Trevor? To replace your two fullbacks at a stage where this is Arne Slot time, isn't it? We get to that time, 60, 70 minutes, we're winning the game, and this is when we shut it down. Yeah, bang, we go bang. But he didn't, did he? He put a rocket underneath the game by the substitutions and the fact that Endo had to play right back, and they very quickly went okay, and you just kept going into that space, didn't it? Endo, again, tactically, he's a very cute player, but when he's got to run, there is wide players in the Premier League who are quicker than him. And also another thing, Trevor, and I was doing commentary on the game, also then they come back at 2-2, and then we take off Ekitike and Wirtz. And my first thought is, we got no goals on the pitch, kind of Mo. But we haven't got a lot of goals on the pitch. All of a sudden, that'd be okay. Says come on, and Joe Gomez and Curtis Jones and Robbo and all that. And you think we haven't got a lot of goals on the pitch. We need goals, because that was much more than just a game, isn't it? You didn't want to start the season by losing 2 points, and with the whole tribute to Shota and his brother. And, it was much more than that, wasn't it? And then all of a sudden you go, where's our goals? I know that people got Mo scored, wherever many he scored, isn't it? But Chiesa managed to come up with one, didn't he? I mean, it was just, yeah, it was kind of that night, wasn't it, Trevor? It was that kind of a night, wasn't it? But the atmosphere, Trevor, I was there, 4:45. The place, it was electric. It was a bit like Spurs when we beat them 5-1. The anticipation and people everywhere, and the buzz and all the brand new shirts, and yeah, it was a terrific evening.
It really felt like it, and I'm sure you were aware of the really unfortunate disturbance that happened, where we had a fella who decided to display a huge amount of ignorance and hatred towards a footballer, of all things. I thought the player in question had the best possible answer in the way that he conducted himself. I loved his responses afterwards, his reactions to how the refereeing team, the management of Liverpool, the staff of Liverpool, the fans in general reacted. It all felt like we got past a very ugly thing with the minimum of fuss, but an awful lot of that was down to the dignity that man carried himself with. I thought that was very impressive, Jan, as was his performance on the park. He's a hell of a player.
I was just going to say, Bournemouth as a whole were terrific. The fans were terrific with the Shota thing, right the way through with You Never Walk Alone. The manager was terrific after. The Semenyo was terrific. And I also thought that they were terrific, considering the players that they'd sold. And, I spoke to some Bournemouth fans before, and they went, oh, this could be 5 or 6, We lost so many players, isn't it? But no doubt they've got a good manager. They've got a good team to buy and sell their players, and they'll be okay. So they more than played their part. They were a real tribute to themselves, that's for sure.
You spoke about Chiesa and his impact, and it was so much better than we could have dreamed. It seems to have thrown a little bit of spanner in the works, and there was all sorts of tweets from the boys who usually are in the know this week saying that now all of a sudden the door is open to him staying around. And I think that might be, Jan, more of a function of the fact that Newcastle can't do any business and have proved to be completely inept when it comes to attracting players. As a result, the whole Isak thing has been essentially banjaxed and may well not happen. And so the chain is not flowing the way it should flow. And we may be thinking, right, if we're going to have to go to plan B won't be 2 players now, it'll be just 1. And this is me being optimistic. And so all of a sudden, Chiesa becomes an option. Now, I personally don't see why he wouldn't be, but the only reason I do, and this is my common sense kicking in here, is, well, he has proved to be very unpopular with the manager in terms of him wanting to use him on the park. I'm sure he's a brilliant lad, just like Harvey Elliott is. I'm sure the manager really admires that about him, but he doesn't give him the minutes when the minutes were there and he was available for them. That's the sample size we have to work with, Jan. Could something like this, and again, just from your own experience in the game, could something like this have changed the situation dramatically in Arne Slot's head? Because I'm kind of doubting that.
I'm very much doubting that as well, Trev. I mean, I was just about to say what you said, and we spoke about Arne Slot before. And in many ways, Arne Slot is quite easy to read in terms of what players he rates and what players he doesn't rate. So the fact that Chiesa has come on and he scored a goal, I don't think that greatly changed the way that Arne Slot feels about it. But I do, however, think that the people who buy players at Liverpool might just think that one thing we don't do, we don't panic, yeah? We don't end up buying players that we don't really want. We don't end up buying players that we don't really have a plan with. So because of that, and because of the whole Isak thing and whatever, they might just think, well, okay, we will get some minutes from Isak, and we will also trust that we got so much flexibility in whether it's Gakpo, whether it's Florian Wirtz, Mo Salah, Dom, whatever, they can play in a number of positions. So we'll probably be okay, because it is kind of the one thing that we've been pretty good at, is not panicking. I mean, we all remember the Virgil van Dijk thing, and I remember, some of my old teammates coming out and saying, well, if we can't get him, surely we can get somebody else, surely we can find somebody else, you know what I mean? But Liverpool don't really buy into that, do they? This is who we want, and it's the same thing with Alexander Isak, isn't it? It's just a question of what it takes, or even how long we might be prepared to wait.